Hello, Chronically-ON-Beat baddies. I am your host, Marilise, and welcome back to another chaotic episode. Today's guide. All right, first of all, today is just going to be audio because I was considering propping up the camera, but if I'm being completely honest, I just don't feel like being on camera today. And that's fine. I really just don't feel like being on camera today. I am a little tired. This week has been absolutely draining with midterms and all, which we'll end up discussing later. But yeah, today is just going to be audio, so you're really just going to hear my voice and my voice only because I don't have any guest speakers for today either, so it is just our one-on-one time. First of all, a lot has happened this week. Let me just preface by saying that. Because, first of all, apparently I've got fans. Because why is someone trying to impersonate me on Instagram? Mind you, it's probably a bot. It's probably a bot. But, I'm just going to humor myself a little bit and say that it's an actual person trying to impersonate me. Because, why not? I also feel like, and it's so funny, too, because before that, I was really like, I've seen it happen to other people that I follow on Instagram, and I always see that. I'm like, dang, when am I gonna get that initiation into making it into influencing and on social media and stuff? I'm like, when am I gonna get impersonated? When am I gonna reach that level? Because I feel like that's your initiation into social media of when you've officially made it or you're on your way to making it. You know what I mean? That's crazy. And then on top of that too, shout out to all my friends for messaging me, but also stop feeding into my delusions because you guys were gassing me up to the max. But anyway, so yeah, apparently I've got fans, people trying to impersonate me online. And to that I say, thank you. Actually, thank you. Because again, I feel like that's your initiation in life, that you've officially made it. And it's funny to me because I don't know. I think it's just funny. It truly is just funny that way. I don't know what else to say. And also sidebar. Well, not really sidebar because it's still the same topic. But if I truly needed your phone number, I probably would not be asking for it on Instagram unless that's the only form of social media that I have you on. I probably wouldn't do that. But also, when it comes to scams like that, and especially if you have my number, text me first. Don't fall for anything like that, because I probably would not have worded it that way either. So don't fall. I guess the message is don't fall for scams. And I have fans because people are trying to impersonate me online, even though it's a bot. But we're just going to feed into my delusion a little bit that it's an actual person trying to impersonate me. But yeah, apparently I've got fans. I've officially made it in life. Yeah. What I wanted to talk about today, there's a lot that happened in the last couple of weeks, and I kind of want to talk about it because I feel like I've been busy this entire semester so far, and we are in the midst of midterm week, although I am finished with my midterms. And it's just very interesting to me to kind of see the growth that I've had over the last 5 years of me being a Central, because at one point I felt like I wasn't doing enough, and then now I feel like I'm doing the absolute most, and I have so much to do still that I need to sort out. And it's good. It's like one of those good stress moments because you have work that you're doing and you're getting work done, and you're being motivated, and you have, at this point during midterms especially, you still have that motivation of wanting to keep going. And I guess, I've been a super busy bee in the last couple of weeks. And we'll talk a lot about why that is, business wise especially. So one of the questions that I had put down for myself, mind you, is when do I find time to relax? And to be honest, I try to plan for time to relax, but at the same time, I have so much work that needs to get done that I'm not sure that I even have enough time to do that. And it's it's fun, but like at the same time, you also, especially as a college student and as a senior, like you really need to like find time to just wind down and just chill, because a lot of the things, especially going into health really quickly, stress plays a factor in autoimmune life as we know it. And one of the main things that I really had to teach myself is to learn to regulate my nervous system because of that. Because for me, I am at risk of like having a flare up or, possibly developing a new disease since I have 3 of them now. And one of the factors of that is a lot of stress. I feel like as a college student, it's very hard to avoid altogether, but you really have to like narrow out how you're going to help yourself in that situation and still keep the motivation. And it's really hard to do that. And it took me a while as a student to really narrow it down. And it took me a long time. So, be patient, take your time, don't rush yourself, but also have a planner. That's very important also as a college student, because if you're a college student and you don't have a planner, something's wrong. Very, very wrong. But yeah, in college, it's definitely very hard to find time to relax just for yourself. And when I mean time to relax, I don't mean like you sitting down on the couch and scrolling through TikTok, whatever. No, when I'm talking about relaxation, I am talking about winding down, turning your phone off, putting everything away, ignoring any text messages, any calls that are coming through, and just get yourself into, I guess one of the forms could be like meditation and like just really sitting with you and yourself. Teach your mind to wind down in those moments, not worrying about any messages, emails, calls that are coming through, any appointments you have coming up. Just allowing your mind, your brain to relax and just chill out. Midterms definitely plays a factor into this as well, because midterms is stage 1 of when the stress really hits. I feel like there's different stages when a semester begins, right? You have the first 2 months, maybe 1.5 months, right? You still have that beginning, like you're settling down, you're getting used to your classes, you're getting used to the syllabus, you're getting used to their grading, their teaching. And then you hit midterms. And then that's when the stress, I think, really starts to hit, because you're like, oh crap, this is midterm. This is the literal middle of the semester, meaning that we are now closer to the end than we were before. Which, especially as a senior too, I think really hits, because you're like, oh my gosh, the finish line is actually getting very close. And it's really hard to like kind of grasp a little bit. But then after midterms, then you have another exam coming up and you're like, oh crap, but there's another exam coming up. And then maybe you have an essay that's due, a big paper, whatever. And then by the time it hits Thanksgiving, that's when it really picks up really quick. And you're like, oh crap, there's only a couple weeks left of school. And then we go on break. And then you start the spring semester. So it's a lot to grasp in terms of time. And I always say that time management is very important as a college student, because you should learn how to factor in all the things you want to do outside of academics and work, and really give yourself time, more importantly, to take care of your mental health and to wind down and relax. Because again, that is one of the most important things that you have to do as a college student. Heavy on the taking care of yourself part. Because as college students, you can easily steer away from that, from your self-care plan. And unfortunately, it's really up to you to pull yourself out of that hole and get everything together. And it's also really hard to kind of have that motivation for midterms too, because on one hand, you're thinking it's still the beginning of the semester, so you're not really putting your all just yet, which you should be, but maybe you're not. And you kind of have to like really lock in, and locking in can be difficult. So I guess my overall message for midterm motivation is take care of yourself mentally and physically. give yourself relaxation time, plan out how you're going to study. But, midterms can be a little rough because that's when, again, the stress really does hit with you that after this week, you are now closer to the end than you are to the beginning. Now, moving on to a little bit more of a discussion that I'm actually really excited to talk about, and that is business. So it's time to get down to business. So if you didn't know, I also have a catering business called Mari's Cooking, and I cater Puerto Rican food mostly. And my specialty that I sell are empanadas and tres leches. I guess I should give my origin story first and discuss that before I dive deep into what happened last week. But first I'm going to give a background on Mari's Cooking, how that came about. A couple of years ago, back in November 2023, I believe. I think I was like a sophomore or something. It was pretty much the first week of November. I just remember feeling motivated to start something new. And for some reason, my great idea was to start a cooking type of business. But I didn't want to do the typical baked goods, that a lot of people do, because I can bake, but I didn't feel like I was good enough to make a whole business out of it. Cooking, however, I am pretty good at, and I don't have culinary experience. So I'm going based off vibes and my parents teaching me. So then I was like, okay, but what am I going to sell? And I was like, empanadas. And one of the questions that my friend Jared had submitted was, so why empanadas as the focus and not like pizza or tacos? And I'll tell you why. I can make a good pizza and I can make some good tacos, but I can make really good empanadas. Not to gas myself here, but I'll tell you why. When I was in middle school, okay, we're really going to dive deep here, I guess. Okay, fine, whatever. When I was in middle school, when I was in elementary school in the 6th grade, the middle school Spanish teacher was having a pilot class that she wanted a couple of 6th graders to join in the mornings before we were supposed to go to elementary school. And my elementary school was K through 6, and then middle school was 7 to 8. I didn't know much about this program. Well, the only thing that I knew was that they wanted me to come test it out, and it was like a Spanish class. I didn't know anything other than that we would be learning Spanish, okay? And at the time, I should have looked more into it because I'm like, well, they already have Spanish classes already. What's going to be different about this one? And I don't know, maybe it was like a new curriculum thing because at the time, the school systems were changing their like curriculum styles. So I was like, okay, all right, let's see what this is about. Basically what would happen is our parents would have to drop us off at the middle school in the morning, and then we would be in the classroom for like an hour, and then a bus would come pick us up and take us to our elementary school. And I remember being there the first time, and they were speaking Spanish, fluent Spanish the whole time. I didn't understand anything because I didn't grow up learning Spanish. I grew up around people that spoke Spanish, but I didn't learn Spanish as a second language. So to me, I had a lot of anxiety around that because I was expected to have already known Spanish and I didn't. And I ended up staying for the entire, I don't know how long it was. I want to say maybe it was like for a couple of months or maybe it was an entire year. I don't remember. But I ended up staying, and I did learn a lot of Spanish, and my teacher knew that I didn't learn Spanish growing up, so she pretty much let me stay, and it was fun. But I say this to say because, and we can go into that discussion another time, because yes, I am an Osabo kid. Anyway, we'll have that conversation another day. But in this class, we would, on almost every Fridays, we decided to have like food parties where all of us, and there was only, I think, 4 or 5 of us that were in this class. We would have these food parties where we would each bring in a dish, preferably something from our culture, and we would share it amongst the other classmates and our teacher, and we would just like basically have a little like, not a party, but kind of. And this is what spearheaded my business a little bit because I didn't know what to bring for these parties. So I had to think about it. And I had learned how to make empanadas when I was like 7 or 8 years old, maybe. That's when I really started learning how to cook. And my mom had taught me. So I was like, oh, like, let me make empanadas. Like, oh, like that would be fun. So I did. And I will say my recipe then was probably a lot different than what it is now. I've definitely tweaked it a lot now. But so I decided to bring empanadas, and I did. And everyone loved it. And I was like, oh, like this is so fun, blah, blah, blah. Following a year later, we're in middle school. I'm still taking, specifically it was a native speaker Spanish class. That's what it was. And obviously I wasn't that. But following middle school, I stayed in the native speaking Spanish class until sophomore year of high school. And basically in middle school, we spearheaded the whole food party thing occasionally. And we would have food parties in our class. And again, everyone would bring something from their culture. We would all eat it. It would be fun. And I'd bring empanadas, and then I brought in tres leches, and this was all up until my sophomore year of high school. And every time we would do this, I would also make extras for my friends who weren't in the class, and I'd bring it to our lunch, or I'd bring it to like or like our homeroom or whatever. And my friends would eat them, and my friends loved it. They absolutely loved it, and they liked it so much they wanted more. And I was like, not to gas myself up again, but I'm just purely going off of their reviews. And I just remember seeing like their faces and it being like really happy and satisfied with what they were eating. And that felt good to me because at least I know I played a part in making their day in some way. Oh, and then after high school, whatever, I started working at the specific chicken spot. And at one point I started making empanadas again. There was a point in high school where I stopped. And then when I worked at this place, I started again because I don't even remember how that conversation started. But I think I had told them or my managers or something that I make really good empanadas and they'd love to have it. And I said I could bring some in one day because I used to do closing shifts a lot. And, you know, closing shifts at this place, we were always there really late at night. So I was like, oh, you know, like, why don't I just like bring in a tray of empanadas or whatever? So I did. And they absolutely loved it. They loved it so much. They wanted to pay me for it. And some of them did. And I was like, wow, like people actually really like this to the point where I can make money off of it. Like that's crazy. And needless to say, I stopped after a while. Then November 2023, I was like deciding on opening a food type of business and decided that empanadas were going to be my focus. So Jared, to answer your question, why empanadas as the focus? Primarily because that's what everyone loved the most out of all the things that I've cooked for them. That is what they love the most. And it's very satisfying. I think empanadas are one of the few things that are meant to be an appetizer, but they're actually pretty filling enough that you can make a meal out of it, low-key. So yes. So why empanadas as the focus? That's because everyone loved it so much that they actually wanted to pay me for it. So there's your answer to that question. But yeah, so that's pretty much the origin story of why I wanted to start this business. Now, the name Mari's Cooking, I'm going to be honest, that didn't take a lot of time to think about. It didn't take a lot of time to think about. My criteria for coming up with the name was honestly just having my name in it and then something that had to make sense to follow it. And I guess Mari's Cooking made sense. I don't even remember what other options I considered. I think that was the only option I considered, to be honest. And the other criteria was a butterfly had to be in the logo because butterflies have a lot of significance for me. I'm not going to go too far into that, but basically it's the blue butterfly has a lot of significance to me personally because of my hyperthyroidism. That's like the mascot for it pretty much. And spiritual wise, like it just, I've always loved butterflies. Butterflies have just always been my thing. Like, I guess looking at it this way, if you can think about what your spirit animal is, mine would be butterflies, even though they're not animals, but you know what I mean. So it's kind of like similar to that of like spiritually, who am I? I'm a butterfly. But yeah, so that's pretty much Mari's cooking origin story. Before I get to the main topic of this discussion, I should talk about some of the setbacks and failures that I have seen so far. And granted, in business, you're always going to have that. There's always going to be something that fails. There's always going to be something that sets you back. You kind of have to like navigate through that failure to find your path to success. When I had started the business in November 2023, I officially didn't start selling until January of last year, 2024. When I had finally gotten my license for that, I decided that I needed to host an event of some sort. Something to introduce Mari's Cooking on a professional scale. And I thought of a few ideas, but one really stuck out to me, and that was hosting a taste testing event. The videos are up on our YouTube. So you can go check those out and see like a little snippet of how it went. But I'm going to be honest, there were a lot of errors that day. The thing with the taste testing event, when I started planning it, I started too late. And mind you, the taste testing event happened in June. I started planning maybe December, early January. But you're probably thinking, but that's like 6 months. Like I feel like that's enough time. No, it's actually not. On the scale that I wanted that event to be at, it definitely was not enough time. And when you're trying to plan formal or semi-formal events like that, you need to start planning a year in advance, at least a year in advance, because there is a lot of intricate details that go into planning this kind of event that, I'm going to be honest, if you're trying to rush it, it's going to come out bad, whether your guests notice it or not. There are bound to be many errors and things that could have been easily solvable. We're going to talk about that eagerness versus limitations. And basically what that means is where you want something to happen very high scale and quick, that you are pushing whatever limitations that are coming to you. And basically those could be signs of like, okay, maybe you should push it back a little. And we're going to talk about that because I definitely in business, especially when I started, I definitely have that issue of pushing, even though it may not be a good idea or it may not be the right timing. With the taste testing event, it happened in June, but I started planning December, January, and that was just too late. I wanted it to be a pretty semi-formal event. People dress up a little bit and come try food. I picked the venue. It was close to my house. It was perfect. But here's the thing. When I had decided that this was going to be the type of event, my dad had actually started working on the kitchen and remodeling the kitchen. So we didn't really have like a proper stove for a minute. We were hoping that he would have been done before the time of the taste testing event, but unfortunately he wasn't. And that's perfectly okay. My problem was that I wanted this event to happen so bad that I still kept the date, even though I possibly would not have a kitchen. The venue that I picked, they had a fully functioning kitchen that we could use, which was great. But at the same time, it didn't help with the flow of prepping and things that we could have done the night before. So it was pretty difficult to navigate that eagerness versus the limitation of the fact that my kitchen wasn't ready yet. And that was the first sign that I should have pushed the date farther out. Then the other thing was trying to guesstimate how much food we should make. Because when you're throwing an event like this where you're serving people food, you have to know how much of everything you should make. I quoted myself 100 guests, hoping that we could get there. It didn't, but we did get 75 guests, which is pretty darn close. So we made food for 100 people. And that's how it works. In business, when you do your especially for catering, when you do your contracting and you're asking your client how many guests are going to be there, they quote you, let's say 100 people. All right, bet. We're serving 100 people. You ask for that final guest count. Maybe they say, oh, like for example, the taste testing event, 75 people. Okay, 75 people. That's great. We're still going to push for 100 because it's better to have extra food than it is to have less. So with the taste testing event, in all honesty, I think we made way too much food. And which was great because we had food for like the next couple of weeks. No, but we had different, we had 2 kinds of pastas, my grandmother's rice, we had breaded chicken, the empanadas, And then on top of that, we also did dessert because that was what was on the taste testing menu. So we had a bunch of food. We pretty much overdid it with how much food we made, to be honest. But again, I'd rather that than less food. So that was kind of also a thing that I really should have pushed the taste testing event to a further date, because then it would have given me more time to wean out all the problems that could arise and try to figure out solutions for things that may happen or may not happen, type of thing. I didn't consider that back then, and obviously I do now when it comes to catering, and we'll talk about that later. So yeah, so we had 75 people at this taste testing event. They all tried everything that was on the taste testing menu, and then we served separately dinner. It came out, decorations and all came out beautifully. I loved it. When the event actually started, it came together. I think where the problem was before that it was all over the place. Our kitchen system at home when we were prepping was a lot different because we had to use a makeshift stove. There wasn't a lot of space for all of us. We pretty much had to be on top of each other. It took a lot of effort. And to this day, I thank every single person that helped out that day, because I was high on anxiety and I didn't really know what I was doing. And it took a lot. We were almost 45 minutes behind schedule. And we got there and we pretty much had to rush all the decorations and everything because people were going to be coming in, I think, at like 6 p.m. It was very anxiety inducing. Didn't have a clear schedule or itinerary or how the event was supposed to go. So it was very disorganized. And again, this is completely on my end. Didn't really know how to like fix it in the moment because there was a lot happening. People were asking me a lot of questions. I was going up introducing myself to people I didn't know. I was also saying hi to family members and talking to them about the business and stuff like that. Because, you know, this was the first Mars cooking event ever. This is the introductory to saying, hey, I'm here, pretty much. So, you know, you kind of have to like go network and talk to people and everything like that. But it was just very disorganized at first. And you want to know why? It's because I didn't have a planner at the time. I didn't have a plan of how the day was supposed to go. And this is why I say now that you absolutely need a planner, because it's very important. But yeah, it was very disorganized. I was freaking out the entire morning and afternoon. I was rushing getting ready. All the food came out great and everything. There was minor issues in terms of the food aspect. It was just more of the organizational aspect that really kind of tipped it over for me. But yeah, some of the decorations that I had bought didn't go up. Visually, I think the room was just way too big. It just wasn't fitting the aesthetic. But yeah, overall, there was just a lot of errors that happened that day that I absolutely take into consideration now. It's kind of one of those things you kind of just have to take it as a lesson and keep moving forward with it. But now, kind of segueing into the positive. Last week, I was able to cater for my friend's wedding, and they both got married last Thursday at this beautiful venue, and they asked me to cater for it. I'm going to be completely honest. When they first asked me to do it, I was a bit hesitant. I wasn't sure that I had hit that part of my career yet, especially with the business. I wasn't sure that I was ready enough for that. But also, I kind of had to take that negative thought out of my head and really just sit with myself and just say, you are very deserving of this. This is absolutely the biggest opportunity. You'd be a fool not to take it. And I took the opportunity. I catered for their wedding. And it came out so good. It practically balanced out the errors from the taste testing event. I wasn't sure what I was expecting and how it was going to go that day, but it went so much better than what I had thought visually, organizationally. Like everything just from start to finish just came together so quickly and so effortlessly that it was just amazing. And I give props to myself because one of the main differences from the taste testing event and me catering the wedding last week was the fact that I had created a visual plan of how everything should go. I made a wedding itinerary for the day of so organized. It was hard to miss anything. I made all the lists for all the grocery items. We checked everything off, made sure we had everything. We had all of our supplies. I made sure that we were all on time with when we were supposed to start cooking things and prepping. And then the next day we woke up, finished cooking, put everything together, made an inventory list, checked off everything on the inventory list, and just left. On top of that, not only did we leave, we left on time. Because what I did with this itinerary was, and especially if you know you run behind schedule a lot, this is going to help you. When you are catering an event or you're vending an event, give yourself a window. And what I mean by that is when I created the itinerary on the timestamps that I put for when we were supposed to start cooking or prepping or whatever. So for example, I had to be at the venue by 12:30, right? So on the itinerary, I put the time for 12 p.m., half an hour early. So what you're going to do is on your itinerary that you make for the day of, when you need to arrive places or you need to be on time to somewhere, give yourself either 30 minutes, 45 or an hour. And mind you, the venue was almost an hour and a half away. So we had a pretty long drive ahead of us. And I really needed to make sure that we were there on time. That was very important. So 10:30 was the latest that we could have left the house. Because no matter what, you're going to have to deal with traffic, or maybe you're going to stop to get coffee. You got to make sure that you take into consideration all of those factors before you actually make the drive to your destination. So always on your itinerary, give yourself that 30-minute, 45 or an hour window so that no matter what, you are going to make it on time because this is what the itinerary says. And that's what I did. I knew I had to be there at 12:30, but if I'm being honest, because I put 12 o'clock, 12:30 no longer meant anything to me. So it's very important that you push the time back to give yourself more time to get there, if that makes sense. So that was one of the things that I did for the wedding that really helped us in the long run. Because by the time we got there, we started setting up the charcuterie table, and guests were arriving at 1:30. So the table had to be done by 2 o'clock. By the time we were done with the table, it was probably 1:45, I think. So we were 15 minutes ahead of schedule at this point. So I was like, oh yeah, we're good. The cocktail hour was starting at 4. We had finished by, I want to say 3:30. All we had to do was just set up. So we had 20 minutes to spare. We were still ahead of schedule, which was perfect. The dinner was pretty much done. We did a charcuterie table. Then for cocktail hour, we did empanadas, cocktail sandwiches, and a caprese platter. For dinner, we did breaded chicken, pernil. We did carne asada, and with refried beans and all the toppings and stuff. And then we did arroz con gandules. And then we did penne alla vaca, baked mac and cheese, and then a green salad, of course. Most of the dinner was already done. The only thing that we didn't have when we arrived at the venue was the meats. And that was where I was nervous about, because it was very important that we needed to be on time. And I did it so we were actually 30 minutes ahead of schedule. Dinner started at around 5:50, 6 o'clock. So my dad and my sister came up with the meats and all that. And I told them to be at the venue. I think I said by 4 o'clock. Or no, I said 3:34. That's the window that I needed him to arrive at, right? We're at the venue the day of, ceremonies begun. I check in and I'm like, hey, are you guys already on your way? Yes. I think they got there at 3:45. And everything flowed so easily. Everybody was on time. Matter of fact, actually, to be honest, we were early with all the food. And it came out so good. Started serving dinner. Everybody came. We probably had almost 2 trays of almost every item. I sent everybody else home. I stayed for the rest of the wedding. And by the time I was leaving, I had seen people were still picking out the food. And we still had 2 more trays left in the ovens inside the kitchen. So I condensed everything. I cleaned out some trays so that they could take home, because I didn't think, this is the only thing that I wish I did. I didn't think to bring, to buy to-go boxes for people to take home food. And yeah, so I didn't stay long enough to see who took what. But there was a lot of food left over. So, once again, I don't think we overdid it with how much food we make. I think we made the perfect amount. I just wish I brought the to-go boxes. But yeah, so, everything flowed so easily. Everything was just on point, and the food was excellent. and everything came out better than I had imagined. And it was all pretty much thanks to the wedding itinerary that I made. If it wasn't for that, we probably would have been behind schedule. And also the day of, I definitely put alarms on my phone to make sure that we were hitting those time frames. It went so good. It was a very successful night. Everyone loved the food. Again, one of those things where you see how it makes other people happy when they eat your food. It's very, very soothing to me. And also the fact that this was my first time catering for a wedding. Oh my gosh, like it went so well. And I hope I can do more events like that, big or small. With that being said, if you are looking for catering for your next big or small event, please feel free to reach out. If you live in Connecticut, I'm definitely trying to expand Mars Cooking out to a food truck, hopefully in my near future. So definitely follow the social media to keep up with us and what we do next. And if you need catering, please feel free to hit us up on Instagram and or book a free consultation in my link tree on our Mars Cooking Instagram page. I do weddings, I guess. Birthday parties, graduation parties, even if you need food for like a meeting or corporate office, just let me know. I can absolutely make something up for you. When it comes to big events like weddings or formal events like those, I request that I need like 6 to 8 months notice ahead of time, because that's going to really help the flow and so that I don't rush. Because again, going back to my first statement of like with the taste testing event and how much time that took me to plan, I definitely needed more time and I didn't give myself more time. So if you have a big event, I would love to cater for it. I just need months notice. Yeah, so definitely keep up with us on Instagram. We're on Instagram and TikTok. I'm mostly active on our Instagram page. It is Mari's Cooking _. That's it. Mari's Cooking _. Okay, so now moving on to another topic. Let's talk pop culture. We're going to highlight some of the things that has been happening in the last couple of weeks, like new music and things like that. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about was Zara Larsson being on top. I love Zara Larsson down. I want to see her in concert. I want to see her win all the she needs to win Grammys. She needs to I feel like Zara Larsson has been such an underrated artist for so long, and I'm finally happy. I'm really happy to see her finally getting the recognition that she deserves, because she has vocals that are so good that everyone it just goes over everyone's head. And I think with her Midnight Sun song definitely elevated her streams. And I really hope it goes all the way up for her from here on out, because she absolutely deserves all the recognition in the world with how much she does, from visuals to vocals to choreography. And the fact that I'm going to be honest a little, I think it's a little crazy, the fact that she opened for Tate McRae's tour. I think it's a little crazy thinking of it that way. And this is no shade to Tate, because Tate is also a really great performer. From choreography, she can dance, she can sing, she can do all these things. Her hair, oh my God, don't even get me started on her hair. Thinking of it this way of Zara Larsson has been such a great artist since the 2010s that it feels weird seeing her open for someone else in 2025. But again, she just announced her tour that she's going on for her new album next summer, I think. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. But yeah, I just feel like we need to give more recognition to Zara Larsson, because she is that girl. She is that girl, and she makes music for the girls. We just need to uplift Zara Larsson a lot. I'm also curious to see what kind of music you guys listen to. So I would love for you guys to either DM me or go to my link tree in my bio on Instagram at mari.elizz. Again, that's mari.elizz. Go to the link tree and submit a talk to me form. And in one of the sections, doesn't matter which one, tell me what songs you guys listen to. I want to hear new music. If you didn't know, I work at a radio station at college. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is add more music to my palette, and especially for my shows. I want to play them on air and get other people to listen to them. So definitely submit a response and let me know what you guys listen to. While we're on the topic of uplifting other artists, I want to talk about Say Now. If you don't know who they are, Say Now is a kind of like pop R&B girl group based in the UK that I found I want to say last summer. I found their song on TikTok, and it's 3 girls. It was such a catchy song. They've dropped a few singles that are really catchy. And if you don't know who they are, please look them up because they are really good. Maybe I'll probably play like a little snippet so you can see. They just dropped a new song on Friday called Supermarket. And they have really good catchy ones too. Like Brick by Brick is a good one. Trouble. This is the song that I found.
Just hit it off, champagne.
But yeah, so that's the song that I found, and it's such a good, like, catchy song that I want more people to like invest in these girls. But I don't really know much about them personally, other than that they're in the UK and they have some pretty good hits that I want more people to listen to. But definitely I wanted to talk about them for a little bit because I also wanted to highlight the fact that pop/R&B groups, girl groups specifically, are making such a big comeback now. And I'm so happy about this because it has been a long time without a very good girl group vibe. Because we have Say Now, we have Flow. I love Flow. Oh my gosh. The vocals on those girls, don't even get me started. Flow, Say Now, we have and then individuals like Zara Larsson on the pop grind. First of all, I love her vision, like aesthetic that she's doing right now. I think that's so cute and really fitting. But yeah, I just love that those kinds of groups are making like a big comeback now. And especially Frequency. Oh my gosh. When I watched Building Up the Bands, I was rooting for them since day one. And I'm so glad that, spoiler alert, that they won the competition. But yeah, like I'm really excited to see music in the next year and see what's to come. And I want all of those girls to be winning Grammys and VMA awards. I want all those girl groups to win everything. But yeah, I'm really excited to see the next phase of music now and to see where it's going to go from here, because I am very excited for new music, new vibes, new aesthetics, new everything. And not to dim the light a little, but I did want to talk about one more topic before we part ways for this episode. And I just want to talk about the fact that dating in today's society is rough, as we know it. And I'm sure that everyone can agree, because it to me, it just seems like everyone doesn't know what they want, or they do know what they want and they filter what they want. They tell you that they want something when they actually don't want something, or they tell you they don't want something when they actually do. It's very confusing in today's society to date people, because no one actually wants to be honest with each other. No one wants to be honest, and no one wants to be upfront. But I'm at a point now where in my dating cycle where I'm like not worth it, to be honest. In my dating experience, I just don't see what the point is, because I will say, oh, this is what I want to come out of this, and that isn't always the case, and it's very confusing. It just makes you feel disgusted, and it's worse too, because when you think of it this way, like, it can be exhausting being a single girlfriend. Let me say that again. It can be exhausting being a single girlfriend. You're probably thinking, what does that even mean? It means you are someone's girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, but at the same time, you are still single. You are doing all these girlfriend activities or these boyfriend activities, but in fact, you are single. As someone that has done that before, it's very unmotivating, and it makes you care less about things like this. And mind you, I am such a hopeless romantic. I love to see love, and I love to see other people being loved. I think it sucks when you don't necessarily find people that also want the same thing, because some people think, oh, it doesn't matter, when to you it does. And I think that that's where the disconnect is when you're dating people, because you're like, oh, I like this thing, and then the other person's like, oh, I don't like that at all, which in some cases it can be fine. But when it comes to things like opening a door for someone, like chivalry, like that's a non-negotiable for me. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk about. Non-negotiables, having a non-negotiable list, especially to the ladies. Please have a non-negotiable list if you don't already, because that non-negotiable list will keep you grounded when you actually are dating people. It'll serve as a reminder of what you do not allow. Tell yourself, okay, these are the things that I do not allow. If I see this one thing, I'm out. Keeping those boundaries, really grounding yourself. I think that's where I'm at in terms of dating. Like if I'm presented with an opportunity to go on a date with someone next, I'm probably just gonna be like, all right, this is what I want. If you don't want that, just let me know right now. Because honestly, I hate to sound cocky, but I absolutely do not have enough time. I don't want my time to be wasted at all. I feel like if I allow myself to go through that, then, or on top of you wasting my time, I will also be heartbroken. And I don't have time for that either. I'm a senior in college, running a business, managing a podcast. I don't mean to sound cocky, but that's where I'm at in life. Dating in today's society is absolutely rough. And I hope it gets better, because this is just like annoying. No one wants to be honest. No one wants to be upfront. No one wants to set boundaries. No one wants to communicate. No one wants to do anything. It just sounds like everybody wants to be single for the rest of their life. And listen, you can do that. That's your prerogative. But don't date people that want more when you know you don't. And stand on that business of you not wanting more. Because at the end of the day, the only person you're hurting is the other person. And that's the bottom line of what I wanted to talk about. Dating in today's society is rough. Because I just feel like, and I don't mean for this to sound like a man hater type of podcast, but men are dogs. Men are dogs. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. This very chaotic episode. There was a lot of topics that we talked about today. But thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Once again, my name is Maria Elise, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at mari.elizz. You can also find my catering business page is linked in my personal page, so you can find everything there. I'm so excited for you guys to listen to the next episode, because it's going to be a Halloween special, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it. You just kind of have to trust me on it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you guys next episode.